Hello, everybody. This is John Bullard from another wonderful episode of Pro Wrestling Tonight. Today, we're actually here at our virtual studio, and with me is a young prospect here in the world of professional wrestling. He has been the talk of the town lately from all of his upcoming matches from the state of Florida, and also is actually seen over there at the Collective in Indiana. The one and only Robert Martyr.
Oh,
Robert, thank you for being on our show today.
yeah, no, yeah, it was great. It's a Thursday, so yeah, I had to find something to do. John, I have great respect for you, so happy to be here.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, and great respect to you as well. Uh, so, to give people a little bit of a background about who you started in the world of professional wrestling at age 14, but
Yes,
also you come from a family history of prize fighters that are boxers.
yes, and very crazy way to get into the business. Um, must admit.
So, tell us a little bit about your family background and how you got involved in the world of wrestling.
Well, to put it simply, the first professional wrestler that I ever laid my eyes on, period, was L.A. Park, also known as the original La Parka. My grandmother is a huge fanatic of Lucha Libre, so she had a bunch of VHS tapes from like 93 or 92 AAA. This is when Eddie was still, over there with Art Bar and the El Gringos. And, La Parka was on top of the world beating the crap out of El Santo Jr., all that stuff. So that was the first wrestler I ever saw in my life, La Parka. But yeah, so my grandfather has a very, very long history in boxing. From what I was told, he was a Puerto Rican middleweight champion in the late 70s. And, he met and trained with Macho Camacho while he was on his way out the door, Puerto Rican legend Macho Camacho. So, yeah, he was the real deal. And everybody in my family pretty much has had some boxing experience. And the earliest memory I can remember is like my grandfather just sitting like this, teaching me hand combinations. And that's like one of the first memories I've legitimately ever had. So yeah, you can ask everybody in my family are all fighters.
So, within the boxing background, now you originally started training as a boxer before you became a wrestler.
Yeah, I dabbled in it pretty much. Yeah, I had a good amount of history, and from there, I just never stopped. It's in the blood. It's in the family. So that's something. If you're gonna pick a sport, if you have to do a sport essentially in my family. And it just all led to boxing. So I did have boxing experience, and then I went from that to amateur wrestling in high school. And at 14, so this is about ninth grade, I was like, Mom, I got to do this. I love wrestling too much. It's all I would talk about. I would talk about it to everybody, and my family just didn't understand. And she was like, all right, if you can get somebody to say yes, then okay, I'll do it. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what I'm gonna do. So I just looked up wrestling school after wrestling school after wrestling school, kids wrestling camps in like Charlottesville. Like I didn't know what I was thinking, but I eventually found one school, and they said that if originally then they didn't answer me. I'm pretty sure I harassed them to the point where they just responded. Like I think I hit them with like 16, 17 emails in the course of a week. And they were like, look, if your mother can sign a waiver, we'll do it. And that's how I got started. And I've never stopped.
And what was the wrestling school that you first got trained in?
So I started training with Ricardo Rodriguez. And, Ricardo was a good dude. And he taught me the ropes real quick. Like I didn't have a concept of wrestling. I just knew what I saw on TV. Outside of VHSs that I had whenever I would go to my grandmother's house, I didn't know other wrestling existed. I thought it was just within those tapes. Vengeance 2003, Halloween Havoc. I think that's the one with Eddie and Ray. And then I had SummerSlam 2006. And then I had WrestleMania 19 on there. I think 18 too. And that was it. That's pretty much it. That was all I had. Oh, and a bunch of Ring of Honor tapes. bunch of Ring of Honor tapes. But yeah, outside of that, I didn't know there was I didn't know. I was just like, there's more wrestling. So I was switching through one day because Cartoon Network wasn't on. It was too late. You know, they're playing Adult Swim. I can't watch that. I'm 8 years old. What am I thinking? You know, TBS plays, and I see The Undertaker choke slamming the hell out of Edge on Superstars. This is like 2008, 2009. And that's how I originally was like, okay, there's more. And then, you know, over time, Ricardo Rodriguez, I saw him on television, and then I ended up training with him. And Ricardo's a great dude. Ricardo's great, but he's strict. He's passionate about what he does, and he doesn't care how old you are. You're going to go through the way he went through, and you're going to understand the business through his eyes.
Very old school.
Yeah, very old school lucha. Like, honestly, he was a lot more lenient on us than he got in Mexico, which thank goodness, because of the stories I've heard, you know, that would have been torture. But, you know, Ricardo's a great dude.
With the Lucha Libre, now I know as a former professional wrestler myself, there is such a large grasp of differences between the way Lucha Libre is performed compared to American wrestling. I know they work a different side of the body. There's a lot more cardio involved compared to what most American wrestling usually have. You know, a lot of tumbling, a lot of flips, a lot of moves that, you know, you have to have a strong, I won't say a gymnastics background, but it kind of makes you feel like you kind of have to learn it.
You cannot be athletic. You have to have at least a little bit of a spring under your step to be able to do it. But yeah.
Now, when you started getting fully trained by Ricardo, who was the wrestlers that you was really studying tapes of at that time?
Well, at the time, I was studying guys like who got me into wrestling compared to what I enjoy now and what I would like to watch now are like two completely different things. Like I wanted to be something. Yeah, I wanted to be something completely different. And I look now and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? You know, I wanted to be like a young Seth Rollins. Like I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do the frog splashes. I wanted to dive over the ropes. I wanted to do every driver in the book, you know, but honestly, the guys that really, really, really got me into it, were of course Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle. But again, those ROH tapes, Chris Hero was huge. Chris Hero was the main reason why I even batted an eye to technical wrestling. He was the first gatekeeper, in my opinion, to be like, oh shoot, that's pretty cool. It's not boring when they grab a hold. It's not entertaining when they slow the pace down. He made it interesting. He made it innovative. And then I saw somebody totally different in Homicide. You know, Homicide was the literally exact opposite of Chris Hero, but I found him as entertaining, if not even more. And then I saw Eddie Kingston, and that's where it gets serious, because Eddie Kingston, when I saw him come out in those Puerto Rican baggy pants, you know, at the time, the only Spanish representation I had was Eddie Guerrero, and I'm not Mexican. So, you know, I had to like project my Puerto Rican pride through him. You know, there was nobody that I knew that was like from that. And on top of that, he wasn't just Puerto Rican. He's from Yonkers. Okay. I have family like right around the block from that. You know, Eddie Kingston could be my uncle. Okay. Like I lived with people like that. And it was just like, okay, that guy's representing me. That's me. I'm that. And if he comes from the background I come from and he's still doing it, that's what was like, okay, I want to do this shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but I want to do it. Yeah. I want to do it. And, you know, Eddie was that guy. And props to Ricardo for, you know, he told me it's not about the moves. Don't stop worrying about the moves. The moves will come. Don't worry about the moves. What I want you to worry about is I want everything to be be aggressive, have intent. If your movements don't have intent, what are you moving for? Exactly. And that opened my eyes. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's not about 800 cool drivers that I saw on TNA. Maybe it's not about, the 800 rolling elbows Chris Hero would throw and then kill someone, it's about, hey, man, that lock was pretty good.
Sometimes that wrist lock has a lot more meaning to it than what most people know.
Yeah, and that's what like kind of opened my eyes. And it was weird because, if you've seen Ricardo's work outside of, him being the announcer, he did some of the most innovative stuff I've ever seen. And I'm talking about ever, like Too Cold Scorpio levels of innovative. And he's teaching me about wrist locks.
Yeah. So
that just shows me like the switch.
But the way I kind of look at his background, though, is like, look who he's related to, Dos Caras.
Yeah.
Who's one of the greatest technical wrestlers Mexico's ever produced. I mean, a master submission wrestler.
And what's funny is that, through that, I learned my basis for wrestling was lucha. That's where I got my base. It was always on my underlining base. I can do pretty much a good, decent amount of what, the basic lucha 101 standards give you. I can springboard. I can do a hurricane run. I can frog splash. I can, climb the ropes, walk the ropes. I can do all that stuff. But do I do it? Absolutely not. But it's good to know how. And it's good to have that in your back pocket, especially when you're competing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, the way I look at wrestling, and this is coming from my perspective, a good wrestler is like a magician. You ever go to a magic show, a magician's not going to do 5 million tricks in front of you. He's going to do the 10 best tricks that he knows best that will grab your attention. And then when the next magic show comes, he'll drop a new trick, or he'll do something a little different that, oh yeah, wow, I wasn't expecting it to happen. I think the formula with wrestling is very similar in that way. If you if you do every move in the book that well, what you're going to do next with the fans when they come back to the next show?
Absolutely. And I think that's a problem even the best have, Don't throw your deck out there, and, especially here's what I'm kind of in the middle because I understand the new school and if I want to or not, I'm part of the new school. I'm part of that new crop if I want to or not. But I was also trained a very old and traditional way. So I kind of see both. And I see the young guy perspective of we want to kill it every time. We want to show that, these guys that have been doing it 20, 30 years, they've had their time, but we want to outshow them. We want to outwork them. We want to be better than them for the next generation. But at the same time, you can't throw your whole deck out there. If it's gone, it's gone. Now everybody expects you to see it every time,
Yes.
I don't think I've seen when Too Cold Scorpio threw out the tumbleweed. He did it once.
Yes.
Maybe once every couple pay-per-views. This wasn't once every pay-per-view, once every couple. And every time you see it, oh my God, Too Cold Scorpio just hit the tumbleweed.
I remember the very first time he ever did the 450. And everybody was just like, oh, never seen this before.
What the heck? And and what's crazy is that dude is like 235 pounds of raw muscle.
Him falling on you is not going to feel good.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It's like, what the hell?
230 some odd pounds of pure muscle falling that far down on top of you, that type of gravity. It's going to feel like 500 pounds squashing on you when it comes down. It's like, oh.
That's why I like, it's funny when, a lot of the new guys, like a lot of the lighter guys are like, oh my God, all the bigger guys are getting so much more athletic. They've been athletic. They've but they've known their place. That's the thing. They've known their place in as a wrestler. And I don't mean that in a card standpoint. I just mean as their moves. So they let the smaller guys do the smaller guy stuff and the bigger guys do the bigger guy stuff. Why do you think, Vader could do a moonsault? He could do it. Okay.
Exactly.
They were always athletic, but they just knew what to do and what not to do. And now there's kind of a plan. Now there's especially with a guy like Keith Lee or a guy like Jeff Cobb, who are you guys, Willie Mack, you guys are seeing, these guys are flying better than some of the smaller guys. So it's like, whoa. But yeah, man, I love talking about wrestling. I sound like such a nerd, but Wrestling's just so great. It's just so good.
Oh, I'm right there with you. So
Yeah.
that makes me a nerd. I'm a big nerd too. So don't worry about that. So with the training you've been getting through the years of different mentors, different trainers,
Yeah.
what are all the companies that you've wrestled for, and where are some places now that fans will be seeing you upcoming soon?
Well, you'll be seeing me on a certain major platform very soon. I can only keep it at that legally, but trust me, I want to spill the beans really bad. But other than that, I've been on there's a very good local Tampa promotion called Punk Pro. I've always loved working for them. They're some of the best in Orlando. I've worked for Elijah Burke, who has made appearances at FEW in Miami. I used to wrestle a lot there, and I got a lot of experience over there. More recently, I've gone to the Midwest, and you'll be seeing me a lot in the Midwest very, 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 very soon. Trust me, that's a place I want to work at, and I have a lot of friends that work there, and a lot of friends that are some of the best Midwestern wrestlers on the planet. Guys like Nolan Edward, a guy like Akira, they're some of the best, legitimately some of the best, and they're killing it right now, and I want a piece of that pie. So you'll be seeing me in the Midwest pretty soon.
I also like to thank the company right here behind me.
Yeah, this guy.
Be seeing you there pretty soon too on our TV program.
Sooner than you guys think. And I don't mean to inject my own thing, but I've seen Yoyo, kill it a couple times, and I've trained with him many times. I'm going to powerbomb him because he beat me one time. It's not going to happen again.
So we might see Yoyo versus Robert Martyr in Chicagoland. That'd be a great match.
That'd be a great match. He beat me about a year ago, and that wasn't my best me. My best me is right now. I'm in the best shape of my career. I lost 38 pounds, and I've gained 10 back of muscle. And I'm in the best shape that I've ever been. I'm the most confident I've been in the ring in my entire career. And I think a thing that people tried to hold me down for was my age, especially me starting so young. But I realize now that when I'm 25, I'll be 11 years in.
Yeah.
I'll be 11 years in the business at 25 years old. Now I can't imagine me at 41 with a guy like Loki, who's still killing it at 41 years old at the top of his game. That stuff like that inspires me. Honestly, stuff like that kind of scares me because it's like, how good can I get? And I'm always up for getting better every time. So how could get that? I guess that's my internal struggle. How good can I really get? Food for thought.
Yeah, that's very good. I can relate to you when I was 16 when I broke in. So I look at 2001 to 2020. It's like it's been a long road ahead. But
talk about literally my whole life. Not to make you feel a little old, but
yeah, pretty much. But you know what? I look back at it with fond memories. I know you will too. When you get to that age. Yeah. It's kind of funny. We had a couple of guys in our locker room. Tom Kadelic, better known as Tom Heisman, from Youth Gone Wild. He's just like us. He was 16 years old when he broke in. He's in his 30s now. And so when people are listen to him give advice to rookies, they're like, "He's a young guy giving advice." And I'm like, "Yeah, but he's a veteran already. He's been doing this forever, So
yeah.
It's just one of those things. It's kind of strange when you meet people who are also been in the business so long, and it's like, man, how old are you? And you're just like, oh yeah, I'm this age. Oh, how long have you been doing this? Oh, about 15 years.
You're like, oh, well, what?
That's something. Kind of, yeah. It's kind of like, okay.
That's something not to sneeze at, man. I'll tell a really quick story. Especially with this shirt. I got this shirt because I was doing a ring crew for New Japan in I want to say Fort Lauderdale, and they were doing New Japan Fort Lauderdale, New Japan Live, and I was back there, ushering the Rock and Roll Express. I was ushering some of the young boys to their, to get some fan signings, and Ricky Morton, out of all people, Ricky Morton just walks in. Hey kid, you're a worker, right? And I'm like, yeah. Nice to meet you, good sir. I'm Robert. Very, very honored to meet you. One of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time, period. No discussion. And he's like, really? How old are you? And I'm like, I'm 18. He's like, 18? And he's in the middle of talking with a fan. He's like, he just completely ignores this poor guy who's just been waiting in line for 15 minutes. Yeah. 18? Hey, son, you got a long road ahead, but I'll see you in a couple of years if I live that long. And I'm like, don't say that, man. I love you. Oh my God. Ricky Morton is a sweetheart, man. I can't believe it. And you have to think the amount of miles that man has put on his body.
And he's still going.
And also, he's like, oh, man, he's just a walking time machine. I don't even know how he does it. I couldn't do it at that age.
Think about this, too. He's never taken a break from the business.
That's what I've noticed. I don't think he's ever gotten injured.
No. One time, me and Tracy Smothers was on a podcast show together as guests.
Yeah.
And me and Tracy talked.
Shout out to Tracy. I hope he's going to be
Absolutely.
Much love, Tracy. But go ahead.
Me and Tracy talked about this because Tracy's like, he looked at me. He said, man, he said, unlike me, he said, Robert never took a break. He said, I took a break because of health reasons and problems here and there. But he was like, but man, he said, Ricky's never slowed down. Ricky's been doing this since he's like 16, 17, 18 years old. And that's all this guy's ever done for a living. This is all he knows.
This is literally all he's done.
Yeah, that's his life. I mean,
and it's so good. And Bobby Eaton is to bring up another dude that's been doing it forever. He's not going anymore, but Bobby Eaton is a guy that he's so good, but he'll tell you himself he can't really articulate why he does things for a certain reason. A guy like Ricky Morton, he can explain it. He can understand. He can articulate it to you, and that just helps a whole league of people of the next generation, because he's wrestled plenty of indie shows, and now he has his son Kerry, who's relatively young, super young in the business, but he's already wrestling like he's been like 3-4 years in, and he's only been doing it for like maybe under a year, So it's crazy that a guy like that can still be doing it at a very high level at his age. And that also brings me to another topic that I definitely wanted to bring up on the show. I wanted to bring up, I'm sure you're aware of the Ring of Honor Pure Tournament returning.
Yes.
And I recently had a debate with a friend on if technical wrestling is making a resurgence. And you know me, I love me some technical wrestling, and I am very adamant about making that craft a premier part of every wrestling event, every talk of wrestling. I think it should be the forefront, and that's my stance on it. But I wanted to ask you, because again, much respect to you. You have a very great mind, and I want to see where you're at as far as technical wrestling, pure professional wrestling making a forefront once again.
Oh, I think it's definitely making a huge comeback. You look at some of the guys that are now being featured in WWE, AEW, Impact, and different places like that. A lot of them have very strong technical wrestling abilities.
Absolutely.
Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan, when he was a top guy in WWE, his whole bread and butter was technical wrestling.
Technical wrestling, yeah.
And you look at, watching 205 Live, the guy who wins the 205 Live tournament was TJ Perkins, who was known for being a hold-for-hold, catch-can type of style wrestler. Even for our company, Chicagoland Championship Wrestling.
Who's the guy
majority of our matches have been featured with technical wrestling, kind of the King's Road style, All Japan, feature of old school wrestling storytelling. And I think, Terry Funk said it best once in an interview, and it really hit me pretty hard when I listened to it. He was talking to Gabe Spolowski, and he told Gabe, wrestling comes back in a circle. What is old is new again. And he said, for years, traditional old school wrestling went out the window for hardcore, and everybody wants to see violence. But now you watch it, a lot of fans don't really care for the blood and gore. They really don't. Not like they used to. It used to back then, used to pack arenas. So now it's select companies that does it, but even you see most of these crowds, it's like 40, 50 people, you know? But then you turn and watch a technical wrestling event, 500 or more packed in the building, you know? So to me, I feel like technical wrestling is the true fundamentals of the business. You know, you could be the high flyer, you could be a hardcore guy, you could be whatever you want. Wrestling does have different flavors of ice cream, just like what everyone wants to see something different. And smart promoters, if they do it right, they'll showcase a little bit of A and B and C and give everybody a little taste of the flavors that they like. But the core of our business will always be technical wrestling.
And that also brings back and harkens back to, if you want to go back to the very early 1900s, we're talking about the very brink of the 20th century. You got the snake pit in Wigan, that very young Billy Robinson trained at, and teachers before him. People forget that this type of wrestling, this grappling, has been around for thousands and thousands of years. This isn't just something that's been, harkened on from the 19th to the 20th century. This is something that's been built. And
the shirt that you're wearing, the New Japan shirt, that company got its entire motto strong style from a catch can wrestler named Carl Gotch, who helped train Inoki, helped train a lot of the Japanese top stars, Fujiwara, Fujinami. And so I'm right there with you on when people look at where did Carl train at? Snake Pit.
Yeah, and you look at it now, and there's always going to be purists of every sport, but I think that this deserves a greater look, which I'm happy that it is. And guys like Jonathan Gresham are really harking and making it their brand to bring it back, and all respect to him. But as far as my career goes, if I'm quite honest, I respect the legends, but there was always something that annoyed me about him. There was always something that harkened me and frustrated me. You see a guy like Harley Race, and you see him next to Gordon Sully, the NWA World's Heavyweight title, and he tells you that this is the world's title. And you can tell that he has something within him that wants to release. He has something within him that wants to get out. And, obviously he's representing a major, not even a major company. This is nationwide. This is the entirety of North America, Japan. This is everything. That title was everything. And then you look at Harley when he lost the belt for a second time, and you look at him scream, and you look at him lose it, with blood on his face, pounding his face with his fist. And it always confused me. Because he was such a reserved person with such a rage. And I think that although guys like Carl Gotch and Billy Robinson and Kazushi Sakuraba, who had one of the greatest MMA careers of all time, guys like Josh Barnett, who were, resurfacing the pure style, I think that they did it wrong. And I think that my mission is to do it right and not abide by any rules or regulations that a company or a promoter sets. I think that the wrestler rules, and without no wrestler, there is no promotion. Without the wrestlers, there is no wrestling. So that's something I've always thought. And, I'm a history nerd, so I've read Ronald Reagan talk about the reckless youth and how he doesn't want to be poisoned. Well, I guess I'm the poisoned youth, because I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with the things that, guys like Harley Race dealt with day in and day out. He got turned into a gimmick, became a king, So yeah, I guess that's something that I want to change in professional wrestling.
Very strong words. with your goal in hand to bring back professional wrestling the way that you see that it should be, who is on your top 10 list of guys currently on the independents that you want to have a match with to prove your point?
The independents right now. I can already name 10 people off the top of my head. You see, I see a guy like, it's a good question. I see a guy like, again, Jonathan Gresham, who's pretty much at the forefront of pure professional wrestling. And I look at him and I'm like, you have the flag, but I want it too. I don't think there should be one flag bearer. I think that he's using this foundation as a way to elevate himself. I think he should be using it to elevate the rest of professional wrestling. Now, that might be a disagreement, but I think he is legitimately one of the best professional wrestlers on the planet, regardless of what anybody says. Lee Moriarty, another guy that has been killing it, has been destroying it on the independent scene on a very high level. A guy like Shotaro Ashino in All Japan, who is, yes, you may say he is signed to All Japan, but he's actually a freelancer. He's not signed. Masashi Takeda, deathmatch wrestler, but a pure grappler who wrestled in Battle Arts. Akira, a deathmatch wrestler, but very well skilled in catch wrestling. See, I don't care where your background is. As long as you can do what this business is about, that's what I want. You know, it sucks because I saw a guy that I really respected, and I do respect, like Timothy Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher was the man of all wrestling. Where is he now? Now he's doing demonstrations on live television. See, this is the problem. That's the problem. Greed gets everyone. I'm not a greedy man. My only greed is respect. It's the only thing I'm greedy for. And I've been denied it. I've been denied it for a long time. Now, I've only been living 19 years, and I've only been really living for 18, because before I started in this business, I was an angry kid. I pretty much hated everything and hated everyone. And when I found wrestling was the only thing that transmitted all that anger and frustration into something positive. And I treat wrestling as, you know, Ricardo Rodriguez would say, wrestling is church. Wrestling is life. And I don't think many people treat it that way. Mm. And I think that's what's missing. As far as another man, Masato Tanaka, still going strong. Masato Tanaka, another freelancer. You know, someone I would like to step in the ring again. Someone I would like to step in the ring with in general is Calvin Tankman. Calvin Tankman is another man. You know, he was recently in Bloodsport. Big dude, but the real deal. Simon Grimm, another great professional wrestler. And you just list all these guys and list all these people. I can list them for days, and it wouldn't make a difference. The only difference is that I think that I would make a lot of money with them. Just to be clear, I think I'd make a lot of money with them. I think I'd make a lot of history. That's my goal, really. Make history. Because if you're in professional wrestling, they always tell you, and you've been in business longer than me, if you're not in here to be the best, why are you here?
That is very true.
Everyone wants to be the best, right? Everyone wants to be this the epitome of what the sport is. You see, every champion has always desired the title that they've been searching for. Ric Flair, where do you associate him with? The big gold belt. Yep. Harley Race, what do you associate him with? The NWA World's title. Bob Backlund, what do you associate himself with? The WWF title. And you could just keep going on and on. Who do you see? Antonio Inoki. Yeah. Who do you associate him with? And I guess I want to be on that list. I want to be on that list of guys that come out to the ring and are respected. A guy like Finley. I want to come to the ring and be respected purely based off my skill, like William Regal, who's still teaching today. And I think that's my goal.
Pretty good goals. Pretty good goals. I know pretty soon with you making your appearances on some pretty national scale shows, those goals could be accomplished. And with your determination and your skill set, I feel bad for your opponents in the ring.
Absolutely. And, I think the biggest thing with professional wrestling today that I'm very excited for is that there's always a new challenge. There's always a new challenge because now everyone wrestles like everyone. And I don't say that in an insulting way, but everyone wrestles. Everyone's a hybrid, and that's very hard to get around. You see guys, you see, the early days of UFC compared to now. Everyone's a hybrid in some way. Everybody has to know everything. But I think that if you're dominant in one particular style, I think you can beat three others. That's just my view. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to be in Chicagoland Wrestling. I'm excited to go to the Midwest. I'm excited to be on your television's screens very soon. I'm excited for a lot of things, and I think it's only the beginning.
Robert, I'm looking forward to having you here in Chicagoland Championship Wrestling and watching your career keep on rising further and further up to the top. And thank you again for being our guest on our show.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And for our fans there at home, I want you all to know, be safe out there with COVID-19 still going around. Just be safe, wear a mask, and also make sure that you and your loved ones are doing well. This is John Bullard from Pro Wrestling Tonight. All of us from Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. See you at ringside.